Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Answers. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe you've had a long day, and you're ready to let your mind wander through something fascinating. Maybe you're the kind of person who likes falling asleep to deep questions and scientific mysteries, rather than tossing and turning with tomorrow's worries. Either way, you're in exactly the right place. Tonight's journey explores something you do every single night, something you'll spend roughly 1/3 of your entire life doing, and yet something that remains one of the most profound mysteries in all of biology. We're talking about sleep. You've got nothing to do right now but rest. Let your breathing slow, your muscles relax, and your thoughts drift wherever they want to go. Because tonight, we're going to explore why you need to do this at all. Why does your brain demand that you spend hours each night in a state of near total unconsciousness? Why do you, along with every other human being, every dog, every bird, every tiny fruit fly, surrender to this strange ritual of closing your eyes and drifting away from the world? And just before we begin our journey into this mystery, if these calm explorations help you unwind or give you a peaceful way to end your day, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. Now, let's begin. The universal paradox. Think about how strange sleep really is. Every night, you willingly make yourself completely vulnerable. You lie down, close your eyes, and for the next several hours you're essentially defenseless. Your awareness of the outside world fades to almost nothing. You can't see threats approaching. You can't respond quickly to danger. For our ancestors on the ancient savannas of Africa, this nightly ritual was incredibly risky. Predators hunted in the darkness. Rival groups might attack. The environment itself held dangers that a sleeping person couldn't see or avoid. And yet, despite these enormous risks, sleep persisted. It didn't fade away through evolution. It didn't become optional. Instead, it became absolutely mandatory. Your body doesn't just prefer sleep or suggest it might be nice. Your body demands it with an urgency that rivals hunger or thirst. If you try to resist, if you attempt to push through and stay awake, your body will eventually force you to sleep whether you want to or not. You will experience micro-sleeps, brief moments where your brain simply shuts down for a second or two, even while you're sitting upright with your eyes open. Push further, and your cognitive abilities crumble. Your memory falters. Your emotions become unstable. Your judgment deteriorates so severely that you become a danger to yourself and others. This tells us something profound. Sleep must be doing something so incredibly important that evolution deemed it worth the risk of being vulnerable and defenseless for hours every single night. Whatever sleep accomplishes, it cannot be postponed. It cannot be substituted. It is, quite literally, a matter of life and death. Rats that are completely deprived of sleep die within 2 to 3 weeks. Humans who suffer from fatal familial insomnia, a rare genetic disorder that destroys the brain's ability to sleep, progressively deteriorate and eventually die. Sleep is not optional. It is fundamental. But here's the truly fascinating part. Despite decades of intensive research, despite millions of dollars spent studying sleep in laboratories around the world, despite the brilliant minds of neuroscientists, biologists, and psychologists all focused on this question. We still don't have a complete answer to why we sleep. We know a great deal about what happens during sleep. We understand many of its benefits. We've mapped the brain activity, measured the chemical changes, and documented the consequences of not sleeping. But the core question, the ultimate purpose of sleep, remains tantalizingly just out of reach. It's as if sleep guards its secrets carefully, revealing pieces of the puzzle one at a time, but never quite showing us the complete picture. And perhaps that's fitting, because sleep itself is a state of consciousness we don't fully understand, a nightly journey into an altered reality where the rules of waking life no longer apply. Before we explore the theories and discoveries about why we sleep, we first need to understand what sleep actually is. What happens during those mysterious hours when consciousness fades and the brain embarks on its nightly transformation? The architecture of sleep. When you close your eyes and begin to drift off, you might imagine sleep as a single, uniform state, a simple off switch for consciousness. But the reality is far more intricate and beautiful. Sleep is not one thing. It's a carefully choreographed sequence of distinct stages, each with its own unique characteristics, each serving different functions in the grand orchestration of rest and restoration. Let's follow your brain through a typical night, moment by moment, stage by stage. You lie down in bed. The lights are off. The room is quiet. For a few minutes, you're still fully awake, your thoughts wandering, your body beginning to relax. Then, gently, almost imperceptibly, you slip into the first stage of sleep. Stage 1 is the lightest form of sleep, the transition zone between wakefulness and true sleep. If someone were to measure your brain waves right now, they would see them beginning to slow down from the rapid, irregular patterns of waking consciousness. Your muscles start to relax, though they might occasionally twitch. Your eyes might roll slowly beneath your closed eyelids. This stage is so light that you might not even realize you've been asleep if someone wakes you. You might insist you were just resting your eyes, just thinking with them closed. Stage 1 typically lasts only a few minutes, a brief passage into deeper waters. Then you descend into Stage 2, and here's where true sleep begins to take hold. Your heart rate slows. Your body temperature drops slightly. Your eyes stop moving. If someone were watching your brain waves on a monitor, they would see something fascinating. Sudden bursts of rapid, rhythmic brain activity called sleep spindles appear, like little fireworks in the electrical landscape of your mind. These sleep spindles, which last only a second or two, are thought to play a crucial role in memory consolidation. They represent your brain beginning its nightly work of processing the day's experiences, of deciding what to keep and what to discard. Stage 2 also features sudden sharp spikes in the brain activity called K-complexes. These are among the largest electrical events that occur in a healthy sleeping brain. Scientists believe K-complexes serve as a kind of filter, helping your brain ignore harmless stimuli so you can stay asleep. That distant car horn, that creaking of the house settling, your brain hears these things, and the K-complex helps it decide, no, that's not important. Stay asleep. But if a sound is genuinely threatening or significant, like a smoke alarm or someone calling your name urgently, the K-complex might actually help wake you up. It's your brain's security system, monitoring the outside world even as you sleep. You'll spend about half of your total sleep time in stage 2. It's the most abundant stage, the baseline to which you return again and again throughout the night. But then, perhaps 20 or 30 minutes after you first fell asleep, you descend even deeper into stage 3. This is slow-wave sleep, deep sleep, the most restorative and mysterious stage of all. Your brain waves now are enormous, rolling, slow oscillations completely unlike anything that happens when you're awake. Your heart rate drops to its lowest point. Your breathing becomes deep and regular, like the tide. Your muscles are relaxed, but not paralyzed. This is the sleep where awakening is hardest. If someone tries to wake you during deep sleep, you'll be confused, disoriented, foggy. It can take several minutes for your brain to fully come back online. Deep sleep is where your body does much of its physical restoration. Growth hormone is released in pulses, stimulating tissue repair and growth. Your immune system kicks into high gear, producing cytokines that fight infection and inflammation. Blood flow to your muscles increases, delivering oxygen and nutrients for recovery. If you exercise during the day, your muscles repair themselves now. If you're a child or adolescent, you grow now. Deep sleep is the foundation of physical health, the time when your body rebuilds itself from the cellular level up. But even deep sleep doesn't last forever. After 30 or 40 minutes in the depths, you begin to rise back toward the surface. Your brain waves quicken. You pass back through stage 2 for a little while. And then, roughly 90 minutes after you first fell asleep, something remarkable happens. You enter REM sleep, and everything changes. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and the name is perfectly apt. Behind your closed eyelids, your eyes begin to dart back and forth, sweeping rapidly across the darkness as if you're watching something unfold. In a sense, you are. You're watching your dreams. Your brain activity during REM sleep looks remarkably similar to waking brain activity. Fast, high-frequency, desynchronized waves flickering across your cortex. Your brain is intensely active, burning nearly as much energy as it does when you're awake. Your breathing becomes irregular, speeding up and slowing down unpredictably. Your heart rate increases. Your blood pressure rises. But here's the strange part. While your brain is racing, your body is paralyzed, almost completely immobilized. This paralysis, called REM atonia, is crucial. It prevents you from acting out your dreams, from physically responding to the adventures your sleeping mind conjures. Without this safety mechanism, you might thrash, run, fight, or flee in response to dream content. The paralysis keeps you safe, locked in place while your mind roams free. REM sleep is often called paradoxical sleep because of this contradiction. Your body appears deeply asleep, limp, and unresponsive, while your brain appears almost awake. It's as if your mind has separated from your body, ascending to some other realm while leaving the physical form behind. During REM sleep, your brain is replaying experiences, processing emotions, integrating new information with old knowledge, forming connections between distant ideas. This is where much of your dreaming occurs, though dreams can happen in other stages too. This is where creativity sparks, where problems suddenly find solutions, where the chaos of daily experience gets woven into the fabric of long-term memory. Your first REM period of the night might last only 10 minutes, but here's where the pattern gets interesting. After RM, you cycle back through the stages again. Back to stage 2, maybe another brief dip into stage 3, then REM again. This cycle, from light sleep to deep sleep to REM and back, takes roughly 90 minutes to complete, and you go through this cycle 4 or 5 times each night. But the proportions change as the night progresses. In the first half of the night, you spend more time in deep, slow-wave sleep. Your body prioritizes physical restoration first. In the second half of the night, particularly in the hours before waking, REM sleep dominates. You spend longer and longer in those vivid dream states, sometimes up to an hour at a time. Your brain prioritizes mental and emotional processing as morning approaches. This elegant architecture, this carefully timed dance between different stages, evolved over millions of years. It's not random. Each stage serves specific functions. Each transition means something. And when you disrupt this architecture, when you cut sleep, short or fragment it with interruptions, you're not just losing time. You're losing specific types of restoration, specific processes that can't happen any other way. Your brain knows what it needs. It follows this pattern for a reason. And understanding this pattern is the first step toward understanding why we sleep at all. The brain's nightly transformation. To truly appreciate what sleep does, you need to understand what happens inside your brain during those quiet hours. The sleeping brain is not simply a brain that's turned off. It's a brain that has fundamentally changed its mode of operation, shifting into configurations and patterns that are impossible during waking life. When you're awake, your brain is dominated by certain neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine, which is crucial for attention and learning, flows freely. Norepinephrine, which keeps you alert and focused, floods your neural circuits. Serotonin, which helps regulate mood and arousal, maintains steady levels. Histamine, which promotes wakefulness, keeps you responsive to your environment. These chemicals work together to keep your brain engaged with the outside world, processing sensory information, making decisions, reacting to events as they unfold. But as you slip into sleep, everything changes. The neurotransmitter landscape undergoes a dramatic transformation as you descend into non-REM sleep, particularly deep, slow-wave sleep. Acetylcholine levels plummet. They drop to almost nothing. At the same time, the monoamines, serotonin, and norepinephrine remain present but at reduced levels. This particular chemical environment, low acetylcholine with moderate monoamines, creates the perfect conditions for certain kinds of memory processing. It allows your hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain that's crucial for forming new memories, to replay the day's experiences without interference from new sensory input. Then, when you enter REM sleep, the chemistry shifts again, dramatically. Acetylcholine surges back to waking levels or even higher. Your brain becomes electrically active. Neurons firing in complex patterns. But here's the crucial difference. Those monoamines, serotonin and norepinephrine, virtually disappear. They drop to near zero levels. This unique chemical state, high acetylcholine with absent monoamines, never occurs during waking life. And this is why REM sleep is so strange, why dreams are so vivid and bizarre. Your brain is highly active, processing information intensely, but without the stabilizing influence of those monoamine neurotransmitters. Logic falters. Time becomes fluid. Impossible things seem perfectly reasonable. You're running through a landscape that shifts and changes, and it doesn't seem odd at all. These chemical changes affect which parts of your brain are most active. During deep non-REM sleep, activity in your frontal cortex, the region involved in executive function, planning, and logical thinking, drops significantly. At the same time, certain subcortical structures remain active or even increase their activity. Your hippocampus becomes a hub of intense processing, replaying memories, strengthening neural connections, transferring information to your cortex for long-term storage. Your brain essentially withdraws from the external world and focuses inward, consolidating, organizing, filing away the experiences and knowledge acquired during the day. During REM sleep, the pattern shifts again. Your visual cortex lights up intensely, even though your eyes are closed. Your amygdala, the center for processing emotions, becomes highly active, perhaps explaining why dreams often have such strong emotional content. Your motor cortex fires in patterns that would create movement if your body weren't paralyzed. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, that rational, logical part of your brain that questions reality and maintains a sense of continuous self, remains relatively quiet. This is why you accept the impossible logic of dreams, why you don't realize you're dreaming even when you're flying or talking to someone who died years ago. Blood flow patterns change too. During deep sleep, blood flow to your frontal regions decreases, while flow to memory-related areas increases. Your brain is quite literally redirecting its resources, prioritizing certain functions over others. And the temperature of your brain drops during deep sleep, declining by about 2 degrees Celsius. This cooling might be crucial for certain restoration processes, perhaps allowing for metabolic reactions that require lower temperatures, or maybe facilitating the structural changes in synapses that underlie memory formation. What's perhaps most fascinating is that your brain during sleep isn't just passively maintaining itself. It's actively working, often just as hard as it does during waking hours. Neurons fire in coordinated patterns called neural avalanches, cascades of activity that ripple through brain networks. During waking hours, these avalanches tend to be pushed toward either very small or very large sizes. The brain moves away from what physicists call a critical state, a delicate balance point where avalanches of all sizes can occur. This is the cost of being awake, of learning and thinking and processing. You push your brain away from its ideal state. Sleep is the reset button. As you sleep, particularly during that deep, slow-wave sleep, your brain gradually returns to criticality. The distribution of neural avalanches shifts back toward that ideal balance. By morning, your brain has returned to a state that optimizes information processing, where thinking is efficient and learning is possible. Without sleep, you'd drift further and further from this critical state, and your cognitive abilities would deteriorate progressively. The brain needs to regularly reset itself, and sleep is how it does it. But perhaps the most remarkable discovery about the sleeping brain came from watching it deal with waste. Your brain is incredibly metabolically active. It burns roughly 20% of your body's energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. All that activity produces waste products, damaged proteins, metabolic byproducts, toxic molecules that need to be cleared away. In the rest of your body, the lymphatic system handles this waste removal. But your brain doesn't have a traditional lymphatic system. For years, scientists wondered how the brain cleaned itself. The answer, it turns out, is sleep. The cellular cleaning crew. In 2012, a researcher named Maiken Nedergaard made an extraordinary discovery. She was studying the brains of living mice, using advanced imaging techniques that allowed her to watch what happened during sleep. What she saw was astonishing. During sleep, the spaces between brain cells expanded by up to 60%. These narrow gaps that normally exist between neurons suddenly widened, like a city opening up its alleys and side streets. As these spaces opened up, cerebrospinal fluid, the clear liquid that bathes your brain and spinal cord, began to flow through them in pulsing waves. This fluid, driven by the rhythmic beating of arteries and coordinated by the supporting cells of the brain called glia, swept through the brain tissue like a washing tide. As it flowed, it carried away accumulated waste products. Beta-amyloid proteins, which are associated with Alzheimer's disease. Tau proteins, linked to neurodegeneration. Metabolic waste from the day's neural activity. All of it got flushed away, carried by this fluid into the venous system where it could be eliminated from the brain. Nedergaard called this system the glymphatic system, a combination of glia and lymphatic, because it performs a lymphatic-like function but relies on those special glial cells. And here's the crucial part. This cleaning process happens much more efficiently during sleep than during waking hours. When you're awake, your brain cells are more swollen, the spaces between them are narrow, and the flow of cerebrospinal fluid slows to a trickle. But during sleep, particularly during deep, slow-wave sleep, those spaces open up and the cleaning intensifies. Imagine your brain as a busy city. During the day, the streets are crowded with traffic, people, activity. Garbage accumulates in alleys and on sidewalks, but there's no time to clean it properly, with everyone rushing about. Then night falls. The crowds disperse. The traffic thins, and the cleaning crews come out, sweeping the streets, washing away the day's accumulation, preparing the city for another busy day tomorrow. That's essentially what's happening in your brain every night. Sleep is when your brain gets cleaned. This discovery has profound implications for understanding diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Both involve the buildup of toxic proteins in the brain. If sleep is when these proteins get cleared away, then chronic sleep deprivation might contribute to their accumulation. Indeed, studies have shown that even a single night of sleep deprivation leads to increased levels of beta amyloid in the brain. Over years and decades, poor sleep might slowly increase the risk of neurodegenerative disease. Your nightly cleaning crew isn't just maintaining comfort, it's preventing long-term damage. But the glymphatic system isn't the only cellular-level story about sleep. Recently, researchers at the University of Oxford made another remarkable discovery, this time about mitochondria. These tiny organelles, often called the powerhouses of the cell, are responsible for converting oxygen and nutrients into usable energy. They work through a process called aerobic metabolism, and it turns out this process creates a problem that sleep helps solve. During waking hours, your mitochondria work constantly, generating the energy your brain needs for thinking, learning, perceiving, acting. But this process isn't perfect. Sometimes electrons leak from the mitochondrial electron transport chain, creating what's called oxidative stress. Think of it like an electrical system that occasionally sparks and sputters. Most of the time, the system handles these leaks without issue. But over hours of continuous operation, the leaks accumulate. The electrical stress builds up. And at some point, it becomes too much. The researchers found that certain neurons in the brain that regulate sleep act like circuit breakers. When mitochondrial electron leakage reaches a critical threshold in these neurons, they trigger the urge to sleep. It's not a conscious decision. It's an automatic safety mechanism, like your house's electrical system tripping a breaker when there's too much current flowing through a circuit. Your body detects that cellular stress is building up, that your energy systems need a break, and it forces you to sleep. This helps explain why smaller animals, which have faster metabolic rates and therefore more mitochondrial activity per gram of body weight, need more sleep. Their mitochondria are working harder, leaking more electrons, building up stress faster. A mouse sleeps 12 to 15 hours per day. An elephant sleeps only 3 or 4. It's not about brain size or intelligence. It's about metabolic rate and cellular stress. Sleep, in this view, is fundamentally about giving your cells' power plants time to recover, to clear the accumulated oxidative stress, to reset for another period of activity. And there's one more fascinating cellular change during sleep. Your brain temperature drops. Not dramatically, but consistently, by about 2 degrees Celsius during deep sleep. This cooling might serve multiple purposes. Lower temperatures slow down chemical reactions, which could reduce the production of metabolic waste. They might allow for certain repair processes that work better in cooler conditions. The temperature drop might even help with the glymphatic cleaning process, affecting how fluids flow through brain tissue. Some researchers speculate that this cooling might be essential for synaptic reorganization. Your synapses, the connections between neurons, change throughout the day as you learn and experience new things. Some strengthen, some weaken. Some new ones form, some old ones dissolve. These changes, collectively called synaptic plasticity, are the physical basis of memory and learning. But they also require energy and create heat. By cooling the brain at night, sleep might create optimal conditions for large-scale synaptic remodeling, for the brain to reshape its connections without the constraints of maintaining waking consciousness and processing sensory input. All of these cellular processes, the glymphatic cleaning, the mitochondrial recovery, the temperature regulation, they all point to the same conclusion. Sleep isn't just for your mind. It's for your brain's physical infrastructure. The cells themselves need sleep, need the downtime, need the specific conditions that only sleep provides. You can't think your way through these needs. You can't will your mitochondria to recover or force your glymphatic system to clear waste while you're awake. These processes are fundamental, cellular, and they require sleep. Which brings us back to the big question. With all these specific processes identified, can we finally say why we sleep? Why we actually sleep. Current theories. For all the discoveries about what happens during sleep, the ultimate why remains elusive. Scientists have proposed numerous theories, each supported by evidence, each explaining part of the picture. But no single theory seems to capture everything. It's as if sleep serves multiple essential functions simultaneously. And trying to identify the one primary purpose is like trying to say whether food is primarily for energy, for building tissues, or for maintaining bodily functions. The answer is yes, all of those things. Sleep might be similar. Let's explore the major theories, starting with one that's gained significant attention recently, the criticality theory. Remember those neural avalanches we talked about earlier, the cascades of neural activity that ripple through the brain? Researchers studying these avalanches discovered something fascinating. At the beginning of sleep, after a full hain of waking activity, these avalanches show a particular pattern. They're biased toward smaller sizes. The brain has been pushed away from that critical state where avalanches of all sizes can occur naturally. But as sleep progresses, particularly during slow-wave sleep, the pattern shifts. By morning, avalanches of all sizes occur again. The brain has returned to criticality. This critical state appears to be optimal for information processing, for learning, for cognitive flexibility. When physicists study critical systems, like sand piles on the edge of avalanching or materials at their phase transition points, they find these systems have special properties. They're maximally responsive to input. They can store and process information efficiently. They're neither too rigid nor too chaotic, but poised right at the boundary. The criticality theory suggests that being awake inevitably pushes your brain away from this ideal state. Every thought, every perception, every learned connection moves the network further from criticality. Sleep is the reset, the way your brain returns to that optimal configuration. Without it, your brain would drift into either an overly rigid or overly chaotic state, and cognitive function would suffer. This theory is elegant because it provides a systems-level explanation for sleep that doesn't rely on any specific molecular or cellular process. Instead, it focuses on how the brain as a network needs to maintain a particular computational state. Another prominent theory focuses on energy conservation. This idea is straightforward. Your brain consumes enormous amounts of energy, up to 20% of your total energy budget, despite being only 2% of your body weight, When you're awake, this energy demand is relentless. You're constantly processing sensory input, making decisions, moving, thinking. All of that requires fuel. Sleep, particularly deep, slow-wave sleep, reduces brain energy consumption by 11 to 40%. That's significant. Over the course of a year, that energy savings adds up. From an evolutionary perspective, energy was often scarce for our ancestors. Food wasn't always available. Going into a low-power state for several hours each night would have been beneficial, allowing organisms to conserve energy during periods when they couldn't effectively gather food anyway, like the dark night hours for a diurnal species like humans. Sleep forces you to rest when activity would be inefficient or dangerous, saving calories that can be used during more productive waking hours. This theory makes particular sense for small animals with high metabolic rates. A shrew, for instance, has to eat constantly when awake because its metabolism is so fast. Sleep gives it periods of relative metabolic calm. But energy conservation alone can't explain everything about sleep. If sleep were just about saving energy, you'd expect it to be light and easily disrupted so you could respond to threats. Instead, sleep is deep, hard to interrupt, associated with decreased responsiveness to the environment. You become vulnerable during sleep, which suggests it's doing something more important than simply conserving calories. That brings us to the restoration theory, which posits that sleep is when your body and brain repair and rebuild themselves. This is perhaps the most intuitively appealing theory, because we feel refreshed after good sleep and terrible after poor sleep. During sleep, particularly deep sleep, your body releases growth hormone, which stimulates tissue repair. Your immune system ramps up production of cytokines and other infection-fighting molecules. Your muscles recover from the day's exertions. At the cellular level, damaged proteins get broken down and removed, new proteins get synthesized. Cellular structures get repaired. In your brain specifically, sleep appears to be when synapses get reorganized. During the day, as you learn and experience new things, synapses strengthen. But if this strengthening continued unchecked, your brain would become saturated. Every synapse would be maximally strong, and there would be no room for new learning. Some researchers believe that during sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep, there's a process of synaptic downscaling. Weaker, less important synapses get pruned away or weakened, while truly important connections are preserved or strengthened further. This rebalancing allows your brain to maintain its capacity for new learning. The restoration theory is well supported by evidence. Sleep deprivation clearly impairs physical recovery and immune function. People who don't sleep enough get sick more often, heal more slowly from injuries, and show signs of accelerated aging at the cellular level. But here's the puzzle. Simple rest without sleep doesn't provide the same benefits. You can lie still in bed for 8 hours with your eyes closed, not sleeping, and you won't feel restored. You'll actually feel terrible. So sleep isn't just rest. It's a specific active process that accomplishes restorative functions that can't happen during quiet wakefulness. Another theory focuses specifically on memory and learning. This idea suggests that the primary purpose of sleep is to process and consolidate memories, to integrate new information with existing knowledge, to strengthen neural pathways associated with important experiences, while letting unimportant details fade. The evidence for sleep's role in memory is overwhelming. Study after study has shown that sleep after learning improves retention, that sleep deprivation impairs memory consolidation, that specific sleep stages process specific types of memories. But here's an interesting twist. Some researchers argue that sleep isn't primarily about strengthening memories, but about forgetting. Your brain encodes thousands of details every day, most of them completely irrelevant. What you had for breakfast last Tuesday, what color shirt a random passerby wore, what song was playing in the background at a store. If you remembered everything with equal clarity, your memory would quickly become cluttered with useless information. Sleep, according to this forgetting theory, helps your brain decide what to keep and what to let go, what deserves to be preserved in long-term memory, and what can fade away. Dreams might even be part of this process. Random activations of memory traces as your brain sorts through them, testing their strength, deciding their fate. Then there's the evolutionary or adaptive theory, which takes a step back from cellular mechanisms to ask a bigger question. Perhaps sleep evolved not because of any specific restorative or cognitive function, but simply as a behavior that kept organisms safe and efficient. Consider early mammals, small and vulnerable in a world of dinosaurs. Being active at night, when large predators relied on vision to hunt, would have been dangerous and relatively unproductive. Better to find a safe place, become still and quiet, and wait for daylight. Over millions of years, this adaptive behavior became deeply embedded in biology, triggering changes in metabolism, consciousness, and cellular function. The circadian rhythm, that internal clock that makes you feel sleepy at night and alert during the day, supports this adaptive view. It's synchronized to the day-night cycle, keeping organisms matched to the rhythms of their environment. Sleep ensures you're inactive when activity would be dangerous or unproductive. And once this behavioral pattern became established, evolution could layer additional functions onto it. Memory consolidation, cellular repair, metabolic regulation. All of these might have been added over time because sleep provided a convenient window for processes that require the brain to be offline. But there's a more recent, intriguing theory that focuses on early development. When babies are born, they sleep 16 to 18 hours per day. As they grow into children, sleep needs remain high, around 10 to 12 hours. Only in adulthood does sleep settle to 7 to 9 hours. Why do young brains need so much more sleep? One hypothesis is that during early life, sleep serves a fundamentally different primary function. It's not mainly about repair or memory consolidation, but about neural reorganization and brain development. During childhood, your brain is undergoing massive structural changes. Synapses form at an incredible rate. Networks wire themselves together. Entire brain regions grow and differentiate. This construction project requires enormous resources and careful coordination. Some researchers believe sleep provides the optimal conditions for this large-scale neural reorganization. The brain needs to be disconnected from sensory input. needs to have its internal chemistry in particular states, needs to cycle through different stages of activity to properly develop its structures. As you age and your brain matures, the primary function of sleep gradually shifts from developmental reorganization to maintenance and repair. This would explain why sleep needs decrease with age and why the composition of sleep changes. Babies spend about 50% of their sleep time in REM, while adults spend only 20 to 25% in IREM. The developing brain prioritizes different processes than the mature brain. So, which theory is correct? Probably all of them, at least partially. Sleep appears to be a fundamental biological state that serves multiple essential functions simultaneously. It's not just one thing. It's a platform that enables numerous processes, each of which might be enough on its own to make sleep necessary. Your brain needs to reset to criticality, needs to consolidate memories, needs to clean out waste, needs to repair cellular damage, needs to rebalance synapses, needs to restore energy stores. And all of these processes work better or only happen during sleep. Perhaps the right question isn't why do we sleep, singular, but rather what makes sleep such a unique and necessary state that all these essential processes depend on it. What is it about sleep that can't be replicated during waking rest? The answer seems to involve that specific combination of altered consciousness, specific neurochemical states, specific patterns of neural activity, and specific changes at the cellular level. Sleep is a whole body, whole brain coordinated state, and that coordination is what makes it irreplaceable. We've evolved to need it not for one reason, but for a constellation of reasons, all of them essential, all of them woven together into the fabric of our biology. Memory, learning, and the sleeping mind. Of all the functions of sleep, perhaps none has been studied more thoroughly than its role in memory. The connection between sleep and memory is one of the clearest windows we have into what sleep actually does. Every night, while you're unaware of it, your brain is working intensively to process the day's experiences, to strengthen some memories, to weaken others, to integrate new information with old knowledge, to discover connections you never consciously noticed. Let's start with a simple fact. If you learn something new and then sleep, you'll remember it better than if you learn the same thing and stay awake for an equivalent amount of time. This isn't just about being more alert after rest. Studies carefully control for fatigue by having participants get recovery sleep before testing. The benefit comes specifically from sleep occurring soon after learning. Sleep within the first 30 hours after learning something is particularly crucial. Miss that window, and the memory doesn't consolidate as well, even if you sleep later. But here's where it gets interesting. Different types of memories benefit from different stages of sleep. Your brain doesn't process all memories the same way or at the same time during the night. Instead, it seems to use the distinct stages of sleep to handle different types of information. This division of labor reflects the different neurochemical and electrical states we explored earlier. Declarative memories, the kind of memories you can consciously recall and describe like facts, events, experiences, benefit particularly from slow-wave sleep. Remember that deep sleep in the first half of the night with those enormous, slow, rolling brain waves? That's when your hippocampus replays the day's experiences. Researchers have actually recorded individual neurons in sleeping animals and found that they fire in patterns that match the patterns from earlier learning experiences. Your brain is literally replaying your day over and over, but at a faster speed. An experience that took minutes during the day might replay in seconds during sleep. This replay serves a crucial function. Your hippocampus is like a temporary storage buffer. It quickly encodes new experiences, but it has limited capacity. During sleep, especially during those slow oscillations of deep sleep, the hippocampus engages in a dialogue with your cortex, the outer layer of your brain where long-term memories are ultimately stored. The hippocampus says, "Here's what happened today," replaying the neural patterns. The cortex listens, gradually forming its own version of those patterns, slowly building stable, long-term memory traces. The slow waves themselves might be crucial for this transfer. These oscillations provide a timing mechanism, coordinating activity across different brain regions. During the peak of the slow wave, different parts of your cortex become more excitable, more ready to strengthen their synapses. The hippocampus times its replay to these peaks, essentially teaching your cortex when it's most ready to learn. Over many cycles, over many slow waves through the night, the cortex learns. By morning, memories that were fragile and dependent on the hippocampus have become stable and integrated into your cortical networks. This is why slow-wave sleep is so important for learning facts and remembering events. If you study for an exam and then get good deep sleep, you'll perform better than if you study and get poor deep sleep. Your brain needs those slow waves to move information from temporary to permanent storage. Older adults, who typically experience less deep sleep than younger people, often complain about memory problems. Part of this might simply be that they're not getting enough slow-wave sleep to properly consolidate new memories. But what about REM sleep? That strange, dream-filled state in the later part of the night? REM appears to handle different types of memories, particularly procedural memories like motor skills and perceptual learning. If you're learning to play a musical instrument, to type without looking at the keyboard, to recognize patterns, to perform a physical skill, REM sleep is crucial. Studies have shown that improvement in these tasks correlates with the amount of REM sleep you get. REM might also be particularly important for emotional memories. Remember that your amygdala, the emotion center, is highly active during REM sleep. At the same time, stress hormones like cortisol and norepinephrine are at their lowest levels during most of the night, rising only toward morning. This creates a unique opportunity. Your brain can reactivate emotional experiences, can process the feelings associated with events, but without the full physiological stress response. It's as if you're experiencing the emotion at a distance, examining it safely. Some researchers believe this process helps you extract meaning from emotional experiences while reducing their emotional intensity. Over time, memories of negative events tend to lose their sharp emotional edge. You remember what happened, but it doesn't hurt as much. REM sleep might be part of this healing process, allowing you to process emotions, understand their significance, but gradually separate the factual memory from the overwhelming feeling. This could be why sleep disturbances are so common in depression and PTSD. When REM sleep is disrupted, emotional processing suffers, and negative emotions can become trapped, unable to be properly integrated and diffused. Dreams themselves might be a window into this memory processing. When people are awakened during different sleep stages and asked to report what they were experiencing, interesting patterns emerge. Dreams during REM tend to be vivid, bizarre, emotionally intense, story-like even if the story doesn't make logical sense. Dreams during non-REM sleep, especially during those periods of slow-wave sleep, tend to be more thought-like, more fragmented, less bizarre. Often they incorporate recent experiences more directly, like replaying parts of your day with slight variations. Some scientists believe that when you dream, you're actually becoming aware of the memory processing that's happening in your sleeping brain. Fragments of different memories get activated and recombined. Your visual cortex generates imagery even though your eyes are closed. Your emotion centers react. Your brain tries to weave these fragments into something coherent, creating the strange narratives of dreams. The incorporation of recent experiences into dreams might reflect the hippocampus replaying those experiences. The emotional intensity of some dreams might reflect the amygdala's involvement in processing emotional memories. But memory consolidation isn't just about strengthening connections. It's also about weakening them. Your brain can't keep everything. You'd become overwhelmed with trivial details. During sleep, your brain appears to actively prune away weak synapses, connections that aren't important enough to maintain. This creates space for new learning, prevents saturation, and helps distinguish signal from noise. Recent research has shown that during sleep, particularly during REM sleep, certain neural pathways actively promote forgetting, breaking down unnecessary connections. There's even evidence that sleep helps with creativity and problem-solving, processes that require connecting distant concepts in novel ways. Have you ever gone to bed struggling with a problem and woken up with a solution? It's not just a saying. Studies have shown that sleep genuinely enhances insight and creative thinking. During sleep, your brain has the freedom to make associations it might not make during focused waking thought. Without the constraints of logical, directed thinking, without sensory input demanding attention, sleeping brain can follow unusual paths, link distant memories, discover unexpected solutions. One famous study taught people a number sequence task with a hidden rule that, once discovered, makes the task much easier. Only about 20% of participants discovered the rule during their initial practice session. But after a night of sleep, about 60% discovered it. Sleep hadn't given them more practice. It had given them insight. Their sleeping brains had continued working on the problem, exploring possibilities, and had spontaneously discovered the hidden pattern. This is why so many great thinkers throughout history have emphasized the importance of sleep for their work. Mendeleev reportedly saw the structure of the periodic table in a dream. Kekulé claimed the structure of the benzene molecule came to him in a dream of a snake eating its tail. Whether these stories are entirely accurate or slightly embellished, they capture a real phenomenon. Sleep, and particularly the dream-rich REM sleep, provides conditions for insights that might not emerge during waking thought. All of this research on memory and learning has practical implications. If you're studying, you should sleep soon after learning. If you are learning a physical skill, you need adequate REM sleep. If you're processing emotional experiences, sleep will help you make sense of them and reduce their raw intensity. Your sleeping brain isn't resting from the work of memory. It's doing the deepest work of all, integrating today's experiences into the story of your life, strengthening what matters, releasing what doesn't. And sometimes, if you're lucky, discovering insights that your waking mind never could have found on its own. The consequences when sleep fails. To truly understand why sleep matters, perhaps we need to look at what happens when it's absent. Sleep deprivation is one of the most effective ways to demonstrate just how essential sleep is because the consequences are swift, dramatic, and undeniable. Deprive someone of sleep, and you don't just see mild inconvenience. You see a rapid deterioration of both mind and body, a cascade of failures that touches nearly every system. Let's start with what happens after just one night of total sleep deprivation. You've probably experienced this at some point, pulling an all-nighter for an exam, caring for a sick child, or simply dealing with insomnia. The next day, you feel terrible. But what's actually happening inside you? Your cognitive performance drops significantly. Studies show that 24 hours without sleep impairs you about as much as being legally drunk. Your reaction times slow. Your attention lapses. You make more errors in judgment. Tasks that require sustained focus become incredibly difficult. Your brain starts having micro-sleeps, brief moments where it essentially shuts down for a second or two, even while you're technically awake. Memory formation becomes impaired. Even if you're trying to learn something, your hippocampus can't encode new memories as effectively. The pareil. Connections don't strengthen properly. What you do manage to learn won't consolidate well because you don't have sleep to process it. Your emotional regulation suffers too. After a sleepless night, people become more reactive to negative stimuli and less responsive to positive ones. The amygdala, that emotion center, shows increased activity in response to negative images, while its connections to the prefrontal cortex, which normally helps regulate emotional responses, weaken. You become emotionally unstable, irritable, quick to negative reactions. Physically, even one night affects your body in measurable ways. Your immune system weakens. Studies have shown that sleep-deprived people who are exposed to a cold virus are significantly more likely to get sick than well-rested people. Your metabolism changes. Hormones that regulate hunger get disrupted. Ghrelin, which makes you hungry, increases. Leptin, which makes you feel full, decreases. You end up craving high-calorie foods and overeating. Your body's ability to regulate blood sugar worsens. Healthy young people can develop insulin resistance after just a few nights of poor sleep, making their bodies respond to food similarly to someone with diabetes. But one night is nothing compared to chronic sleep deprivation, which is what millions of people endure regularly. In modern society, getting less sleep than you need has almost become a badge of honor. People boast about functioning on 5 hours of sleep as if it demonstrates strength or dedication. But chronic insufficient sleep, even moderate amounts like sleeping 6 hours per night when you need 7 or 8, accumulates sleep debt that has profound consequences. Cognitive function deteriorates progressively. Your brain doesn't adapt to sleep deprivation the way it adapts to other challenges. Instead, it slowly loses capacity. Attention becomes harder to sustain. Working memory, the ability to hold and manipulate information in your mind, declines. Decision-making becomes impaired. People who are chronically sleep-deprived make riskier choices, fail to appreciate consequences, and show poor judgment. In professional settings, this leads to mistakes. In personal life, it leads to accidents. Drowsy driving causes hundreds of thousands of crashes every year. People fall asleep at the wheel, sometimes for just a moment, but that moment is enough. The health consequences of chronic sleep deprivation are staggering. Consistently sleeping less than 7 hours per night is associated with increased risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and hypertension. The mechanisms are multiple. Poor sleep chronically elevates stress hormones. It increases inflammatory markers throughout your body. It disrupts the balance of metabolic hormones. It weakens your immune system's ability to fight off infections, and possibly even to detect and destroy abnormal cells before they become cancer. Some studies have linked insufficient sleep to increased cancer risk, though the mechanisms are still being investigated. Perhaps most concerning is the effect on the brain itself. Remember that glymphatic system, the waste clearance mechanism that works primarily during sleep? Chronic sleep deprivation means chronic buildup of metabolic waste in the brain. Beta amyloid and tau proteins, both associated with Alzheimer's disease, accumulate more when you don't sleep enough. Multiple studies have now shown associations between poor sleep throughout middle age and increased risk of dementia decades later. Sleep might not just affect how your brain functions today. It might affect whether your brain remains healthy 30 years from now. There are also psychological consequences. Chronic sleep deprivation is strongly linked to depression and anxiety. The causal relationships are complex. Poor sleep can trigger or worsen mood disorders. Depression and anxiety can disrupt sleep. Often it becomes a vicious cycle. But improving sleep frequently helps improve mood, suggesting that sleep plays a protective role in mental health. When you're well rested, you cope better with stress, regulate emotions more effectively, and maintain a more positive outlook. Extreme sleep deprivation, the kind that occurs in torture or severe sleep disorders, produces even more dramatic effects. After about 3 days without any sleep, people begin to experience hallucinations. Their grip on reality loosens. They see things that aren't there, hear voices, become paranoid. The boundary between waking and dreaming blurs. Cognitive function deteriorates to the point of being non-functional. Memory becomes so impaired that people can't remember what they did moments before. Emotions become wildly unstable. Physically, the body begins to break down. Blood pressure becomes dysregulated. Body temperature control fails. The immune system crashes. No human has ever been kept awake indefinitely because it would be fatal. Animal studies have shown definitively that total sleep deprivation is lethal. Rats, completely prevented from sleeping, die within 2 to 3 weeks, despite having food, water, and otherwise good conditions. They die because sleep deprivation affects so many systems simultaneously that the body eventually can't maintain basic functions. In humans with fatal familial insomnia, a rare genetic condition that destroys the brain's ability to sleep, the progression is tragic. Patients gradually lose the ability to sleep at all, and over months, they deteriorate mentally and physically until they die. There is no cure. There is no way to force sleep once the brain mechanisms are destroyed. Sleep is not optional. It is survival. Even less extreme sleep deprivation has been used as a torture technique precisely because of how devastating it is to mental functioning and psychological well-being. Prisoners kept awake for days become disoriented, lose their sense of time and reality, and suffer immensely without any physical harm being visible. The effect on consciousness and cognition is profound and deeply distressing. All of this points to a simple truth. Sleep is not a luxury. It's not something you can cut corners on without consequence. Your body and brain need sleep with an urgency that rivals any other biological need. You can survive longer without food than without sleep. Every system in your body, every cognitive function in your brain depends on adequate sleep to work properly. And the consequences of insufficient sleep aren't always immediate or obvious. They accumulate over time, hidden, building toward future problems. The person who sleeps 5 hours per night for years might feel like they're functioning adequately, but their risk of disease is climbing, their cognitive reserve is depleting, their future brain health is being compromised. Sleep is an investment in your present and future self, and skimping on it always comes with a cost, whether you notice it today or not. Sleep. Across the lifespan, one of the most striking features of sleep is how dramatically it changes as we age. A newborn baby, an adolescent, a middle-aged adult, and an elderly person all sleep differently, not just in how much they sleep, but in the quality and structure of their sleep. These changes tell us something profound about sleep's purposes at different life stages. Let's start at the very beginning. When babies are born, they sleep approximately 16 to 18 hours per day. But their sleep is nothing like adult sleep. For one thing, newborns don't have a circadian rhythm yet. They don't follow day-night cycles. They sleep in short bursts around the clock, waking every few hours, usually because they're hungry. Their sleep also has a different structure. About 50% of infant sleep is REM sleep, compared to about 20 to 25% in adults. Babies spend enormous amounts of time in that active, dream-rich sleep state. Why so much REM sleep in infancy? The developmental neural reorganization theory offers an answer. During the first year of life, a baby's brain is undergoing the most dramatic growth and development it will ever experience. At birth, a baby's brain is about 1/4 the size of an adult brain. By age 1, it's already 2/3 adult size. During this time, billions of synapses are forming. Neural networks are wiring themselves together. Entire brain structures are differentiating and beginning their specialized functions. This construction project is incredibly complex. The brain needs to establish basic circuitry for vision, for movement, for language processing, for emotional regulation, for everything that makes us human. And it needs to do this based partly on genetic programming and partly by responding to experience. The infant brain is exquisitely plastic, able to mold itself in response to the environment it finds itself in. REM sleep, with its intense neural activity and its particular neurochemical state, might provide the perfect conditions for this massive developmental project. Some researchers believe that during infant REM sleep, the brain is essentially practicing, activating neural circuits, testing connections, strengthening important pathways. The eye movements during REM might even help develop visual circuits before the baby's vision is mature enough to provide rich input. The neural activity during REM sleep might act as endogenous stimulation, keeping the developing brain active and engaged even when external input is limited. Babies born prematurely spend even more time in REM sleep than full-term babies, as if their brains need extra time for this developmental work. As children grow into toddlers and then school-age children, sleep needs remain high but gradually decrease. A 2-year-old needs about 12 to 14 hours of sleep, including naps. By age 5, it's about 11 to 13 hours, usually without daytime naps anymore. The proportion of REM sleep decreases gradually, settling toward adult levels by late childhood. Slow wave sleep remains robust throughout childhood, providing the foundation for the continued, though slower, brain development that occurs throughout youth. Sleep during childhood isn't just about the quantity either. The quality and timing matter enormously for development. Children who consistently don't get enough sleep show problems with attention, behavior, emotional regulation, and learning. The effects can be subtle enough that parents and teachers might not immediately connect behavioral problems to insufficient sleep. But studies consistently show that increasing sleep time improves children's daytime functioning across multiple domains. Then comes adolescence, and sleep becomes complicated in entirely new ways. Teenagers need about 9 to 9.5 hours of sleep per night, but they also experience a natural shift in their circadian rhythm. During puberty, the biological clock shifts later. Teenagers naturally want to stay up later and wake up later. This isn't laziness or rebellion. It's biology. The melatonin signal that makes you sleepy comes later in the evening for adolescents than for children or adults. Their bodies want to sleep from, say, midnight to 9 in the morning. But society doesn't accommodate this biological reality. High schools often start early in the morning, sometimes as early as 7 or 8 a.m. This means teenagers are being forced to wake up when their biology is still saying they should be asleep. The result is chronic sleep deprivation for a majority of adolescents. They can't fall asleep early because their circadian rhythm won't let them, and they must wake up early for school, so they accumulate massive sleep debt throughout the week. They try to catch up on weekends by sleeping late, but this creates even more circadian disruption, a weekly cycle of jet lag. The consequences for teenagers are serious. Sleep-deprived adolescents have higher rates of depression and anxiety, perform worse academically, take more risks, and have more car accidents. Their brains are still developing, particularly the prefrontal cortex that won't fully mature until the mid-20s. Sleep is crucial for this final stage of brain development, and many teenagers are being systematically deprived of it by well-meaning but biologically ignorant school scheduling policies. Some school districts have experimented with starting high school later, and the results have been consistently positive for student health, mood, and academic performance. In adulthood, sleep needs stabilize at about 7 to 9 hours per night for most people, though there's individual variation. Some adults genuinely need only 6 hours to function optimally, while others need 9. The key is consistency and quality. Adults who consistently get adequate sleep of good quality maintain better physical health, cognitive function, and emotional well-being than those who short-change their sleep. But even in adulthood, sleep architecture continues to change subtly. Young adults in their 20s have robust, deep sleep with large, powerful, slow waves. As you move through your 30s, 40s, and 50s, the amount of time spent in stage 3, deep sleep, gradually decreases. The slow waves become smaller and less powerful. By age 60, many people have very little deep sleep left. Instead, they spend more time in stage 2 and experience more awakenings during the night. Their sleep becomes lighter, more fragmented, less restorative. This decline in deep sleep has real consequences for older adults. Memory consolidation becomes less efficient because there's less slow-wave sleep to move memories from hippocampus to cortex. Physical restoration suffers because there's less time in that deeply restorative stage 3. Many older adults complain about their sleep quality, and their complaints are biologically grounded. The sleep they're getting genuinely isn't as good as the sleep they got when younger. The reasons for this age-related decline in deep sleep are complex and not fully understood. It might be related to changes in the brain regions that generate slow waves, particularly the medial prefrontal cortex, which tends to atrophy somewhat with age. It might be related to changes in neurotransmitter systems. It might even be partly caused by decades of accumulated sleep debt, or by various health conditions that become more common with age. Whatever the cause, the decline is real and nearly universal. Older adults also experience other sleep changes. Their circadian rhythm shifts earlier, making them sleepy earlier in the evening and causing them to wake earlier in the morning. They spend more time in lighter sleep and wake up more easily during the night. They're more likely to develop sleep disorders like sleep apnea or restless leg syndrome. All of these changes make it harder to get continuous, high-quality sleep. Yet sleep remains critically important in old age, perhaps especially so. Older adults still need 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night for optimal health. The decline in deep sleep makes it even more important to protect the sleep time you do get, to maintain good sleep habits, to treat sleep disorders if they arise. Some research suggests that poor sleep in older adults might accelerate cognitive decline and increase the risk of dementia. Given what we know about the glymphatic system and waste clearance during sleep, this makes sense. If you're not sleeping deeply enough for efficient waste removal, toxic proteins might accumulate faster, potentially contributing to neurodegenerative disease. Looking across the entire human lifespan, from newborn to elderly, sleep is a constant companion, but a changing one. It adapts to meet the needs of the developing brain in infancy, the growing body and mind in childhood, the final stages of neural maturation in adolescence, the maintenance and restoration needs of adulthood, and the preservation of function in old age. At every stage, adequate sleep is essential for health, for cognitive function, for emotional well-being. We are sleeping beings from our first breath to our last. Sleep is woven into the fabric of who we are at the deepest biological level. Dreams and consciousness. No exploration of sleep would be complete without considering dreams, those strange, vivid experiences that punctuate the night. Dreams have fascinated humans for millennia, interpreted as messages from gods, windows into the unconscious, or meaningless noise from a sleeping brain. Modern neuroscience has revealed much about the biological basis of dreaming, yet dreams remain mysterious in many ways, still not fully explained or understood. First, let's be clear about when dreams occur. The popular belief is that dreams happen only during REM sleep, but that's not quite accurate. You can dream during any stage of sleep. However, dreams during REM tend to be the most vivid, bizarre, story-like, and emotionally intense. These are the dreams you're most likely to remember if you wake up during or shortly after them. Dreams during non-REM sleep, especially during slow-wave sleep, tend to be different. More thought-like, more fragmented, less visual, and less bizarre. Often, they're concerned with mundane daily matters rather than fantastic scenarios. The reason for this difference relates to what's happening in your brain during these different stages. During REM sleep, your visual cortex is highly active, generating imagery. Your amygdala and other emotion centers are engaged, producing feelings. Various memory systems are active, pulling up fragments of experiences. But your prefrontal cortex, the region that normally maintains logical thinking and reality testing, is relatively quiet. Meanwhile, the brain is flooded with acetylcholine, which promotes neural activity, but nearly devoid of norepinephrine and serotonin, which normally help regulate and constrain that activity. This creates a unique state. Your brain is generating imagery and narrative actively, but without the usual constraints of logic and reality. Time becomes fluid. You might age backwards or forwards in a dream. Physical laws don't apply. You can fly or breathe underwater or move through walls. People can transform into other people. You can be yourself, but also somehow be someone else simultaneously. And while you're experiencing all this, you accept it completely. You don't think, wait, this is impossible. You're fully immersed in the dream reality. The emotional intensity of dreams likely comes from your amygdala's involvement. This structure, so crucial for processing emotions, especially fear and threat, is particularly active during REM sleep. Many dreams have emotional themes. You're being chased. You're anxious about something. You're experiencing loss or joy or anger. Sometimes the emotions are appropriate to the dream content, but other times they seem disconnected, as if your brain generated an emotion and then created a story to explain it. The incorporation of memories into dreams is fascinating. Studies have shown that experiences from the day often appear in dreams, though usually in disguised or fragmented form. You might dream about a place you visited, but it doesn't look quite right. You might dream about a person you met, but their face is different or they're doing something you never saw them do. Your brain is pulling up memory traces, activating them, recombining them with other memories, creating novel scenarios that never actually happened but are built from elements of things that did. Some researchers believe this memory reactivation during dreams is actually a side effect of the memory consolidation process. As your sleeping brain replays and reorganizes memories, you sometimes become conscious of fragments of this process. The bizarre nature of dreams might reflect the way memories are being taken apart and put back together, associations being formed, connections being tested. You're glimpsing the normally unconscious machinery of memory processing. Other theories suggest dreams serve a more direct function. The threat simulation theory proposes that dreams, especially the common anxiety dreams about being chased or attacked or failing at important tasks, are a form of rehearsal. Your brain simulates threatening situations in the safe environment of sleep, allowing you to practice responses and perhaps build coping skills. The emotional regulation theory suggests that by reactivating emotional memories during sleep, particularly during REM when stress hormones are low, your brain helps process and diffuse strong emotions, preventing them from becoming overwhelming. There's also the possibility that dreams don't serve any adaptive function at all. They might simply be epiphenomena, side effects of the neural activity that occurs during sleep for other reasons. Your brain is active during REM sleep, firing neurons, activating networks. When you become conscious of this activity, you experience it as a dream. But the activity itself is happening for other purposes like memory consolidation or synaptic maintenance, and the dream is just your consciousness trying to make sense of the random activation patterns. One fascinating phenomenon related to dreams is lucid dreaming, where you become aware that you're dreaming while still asleep. Lucid dreamers can sometimes control their dreams, choosing to fly or change the scene or interact with dream characters while knowing none of it is real. Research on lucid dreaming has shown that it occurs during REM sleep and involves increased activity in the prefrontal cortex compared to normal dreams. It's as if the reality testing part of your brain wakes up while you're still in REM sleep, giving you metacognitive awareness of your dream state. Some people are natural lucid dreamers, experiencing it regularly without trying. Others can learn the skill through various techniques. From a scientific perspective, lucid dreaming is valuable because it allows researchers to study consciousness in a unique way. The lucid dreamer can communicate with the outside world through prearranged signals like moving their eyes in a particular pattern, which researchers can detect while remaining asleep and dreaming. This creates a rare window into the dreaming mind. Dreams have been studied for their content patterns. Across cultures, certain themes appear commonly in dreams: being chased, falling, being naked in public, teeth falling out, showing up to an important event unprepared. These common dreams might reflect common human anxieties and concerns, primal fears that evolution has wired into us. But dreams are also deeply personal, incorporating your individual memories, concerns, relationships, and experiences. No one else's dreams are quite like yours, because no one else has your exact constellation of memories and experiences. The question of whether dreams have meaning in the psychological sense whether they reveal hidden desires or conflicts or truths about yourself, is harder to answer scientifically. Freud famously saw dreams as the royal road to the unconscious, symbolic expressions of repressed wishes. Jung saw them as communications from the collective unconscious, full of archetypal symbols. Modern neuroscience tends to be more skeptical of these interpretive frameworks, seeing dreams as less symbolic and more literal, reflections of actual memory consolidation and emotional processing rather than coded messages. But personal meaning is different from biological function. Even if dreams arise from random neural activation during memory consolidation, they still incorporate your memories, your emotions, your concerns. They can reveal what you've been thinking about, what worries you, what excites you. Some people find value in examining their dreams, not because they contain hidden prophecies, but because they reflect the contents of your mind in an unfiltered, uncensored way. Dreams can be a window into your own psychological landscape, even if they're not mystically meaningful. What's clear is that dreaming is a normal, healthy part of sleep. People who are deprived of REM sleep report feeling worse, even if they get adequate, total sleep. When finally allowed to sleep normally, they experience REM rebound, spending extra time in REM sleep as if their brain is trying to catch up. This suggests that whatever happens during REM sleep, including dreaming, serves some necessary function. Your brain doesn't just want to dream, it needs to. Perhaps that's the most important thing to understand about dreams. Whether or not they're meaningful in a psychological or symbolic sense, they're part of the essential architecture of sleep. They occur during a stage of sleep that's crucial for emotional processing, memory consolidation, and neural maintenance. Your dreams are your brain at work, doing its nightly tasks in its own strange, beautiful, sometimes frightening, always fascinating way. When you dream, you're not just witnessing random noise. You're experiencing your mind in one of its most fundamental and necessary states, a state that has persisted throughout human evolution because we need it to be fully human. The ongoing mystery. And now, as you float here in that space between waking and sleeping, having traveled through the science and mystery of sleep, we come back to where we began. Why do we sleep? After all this exploration, after diving into brainwaves and neurotransmitters, memory consolidation and waste clearance, development, and restoration, do we finally have an answer? The honest response is both yes and no. We know so much more than we did even a decade ago. We understand the architecture of sleep, the stages and cycles that structure the night. We've discovered the glymphatic system and watched it clean the brain during sleep. We've traced how memories get consolidated, how different sleep stages handle different types of information. We've seen how sleep deprivation devastates both mind and body. We've mapped the neurochemical changes, the patterns of neural activity, the cellular processes that only happen during sleep. Each of these discoveries is profound, revealing something essential about this mysterious state. But here's the thing. Even with all this knowledge, we still don't have a single unified theory that explains why sleep exists. Instead, we have multiple theories, each supported by evidence, each explaining important aspects of sleep, but none capturing everything. It's as if sleep is not just one thing with one purpose, but rather a fundamental biological state that enables multiple essential processes simultaneously. Think of it this way. If you asked, "Why do we eat?" you might get several answers. For energy, for building blocks to grow and repair tissue, for vitamins and minerals that regulate various processes, for hydration. All of these answers are true. Eating serves multiple essential functions simultaneously. No single answer captures why eating is necessary, because it's necessary for multiple reasons. Sleep might be similar. Your brain needs to reset to criticality, to return to that optimal computational state. Your cells need to recover from oxidative stress. Your brain needs to clear metabolic waste. Your memories need to be consolidated and organized. Your body needs to restore and repair. Your emotions need to be processed. Your immune system needs to regroup and strengthen. All of these things happen during sleep, and they all seem genuinely necessary. Try to skip sleep, and all of them suffer. No single one might be the ultimate purpose because sleep is bigger than any single purpose. It's a fundamental mode of existence, as essential as being awake, complementary to waking life rather than just a break from it. We don't just wake to work and sleep to rest. We wake to acquire and sleep to process. We wake to engage with the world and sleep to engage with ourselves. We wake to be one kind of conscious being and sleep to be another. There are still so many questions scientists are working to answer. Why did sleep evolve in the particular form it did, with these specific stages, this particular cycle length? Why do different animals sleep such dramatically different amounts? Why do some animals sleep with only half their brain at a time, while the other half stays awake? What determines exactly how much sleep each individual needs? Why do sleep needs change across the lifespan in the specific way they do? What are the minimal sleep requirements, the absolute least amount needed to maintain function? Researchers are also exploring potential applications of sleep science. Can we enhance memory consolidation by stimulating the brain in specific ways during sleep? Can we use targeted sounds or electrical stimulation to improve sleep quality? Can understanding sleep mechanisms help us develop better treatments for insomnia, sleep apnea, and other sleep disorders? Can we find ways to help people who work night shifts or travel across time zones maintain better circadian health? Can sleep science inform how we design schools, workplaces, hospitals? The medical implications are enormous. Given what we know about sleep's role in immune function, metabolism, cardiovascular health, and brain health, improving sleep across populations could potentially prevent significant amounts of disease. The public health community is increasingly recognizing sleep as a pillar of health as important as nutrition and exercise. Some researchers believe that the chronic sleep deprivation epidemic in modern societies might be contributing to increases in obesity, diabetes, heart disease, depression, and possibly even dementia. But beyond the practical medical and scientific questions, there remains something fundamentally mysterious about sleep. It's an altered state of consciousness that we experience every single night, and yet we can't fully explain consciousness itself, awake or asleep. When you drift into sleep, where does your waking consciousness go? What are you during those hours? Your brain is active, processing, even creating experiences in dreams, but you're not aware of the outside world. You're somewhere else, in an internal realm of memory and imagination. And then, each morning, you come back, returning to waking consciousness as if you never left. This daily dissolution and reconstitution of consciousness is perhaps the deepest mystery of all. We take it for granted because it happens every day, but it's remarkable. You trust that you'll wake up, that the person who wakes will be you, with all your memories and sense of self intact. And almost always you're right. Sleep doesn't erase you. It transforms you temporarily and then brings you back. Every morning is a kind of rebirth, a return to waking life refreshed and restored, ready to engage with another day. And maybe that's the answer we should carry with us. Sleep is necessary not for one simple reason, but because it's woven into the deepest fabric of being alive, being conscious, being human. You are a creature who wakes and sleeps in rhythm with the turning of the planet, with light and darkness, with the fundamental cycles that have governed life on Earth for billions of years. Your need for sleep is as old as complex nervous systems, as essential as breathing or eating, as mysterious as consciousness itself. So tonight, as you let yourself drift into sleep, know that you're doing something profound. You're not just resting. You're not just being inactive. You're entering a necessary state, one that your biology demands, one that serves functions so essential that evolution has protected and refined sleep over millions of years. Your brain will clean itself. Your memories will consolidate. Your cells will repair. Your emotions will process. Your immune system will strengthen. Your mind will dream, weaving the day's experiences into the ongoing story of your life. And in the morning, you'll wake, not just rested, but genuinely transformed by the work your sleeping brain has done. The mystery remains, beautifully. Science continues to unveil sleep's secrets, but some questions might never have complete answers. And perhaps that's fitting. Sleep, after all, is a journey into the unknown every single night, a surrender to processes beyond conscious control, a trust that your brain knows what it needs even when you don't fully understand why. You spend 1/3 of your life in this mysterious state. It is worth honoring it, protecting it, allowing it the time it needs to do its essential work. If you found this exploration helpful, if it gave you a different way of thinking about those hours you spend asleep each night, consider liking this video and subscribing to Sleepy Answers. We explore questions like this regularly, diving into the science and mystery of the world around us, always in a way that helps you unwind at the end of your day. There are more journeys like this waiting for you here, one sleepy answer at a time. For now, though, let the questions fade. Let the mystery be mysterious. Your body knows what to do next. Sleep is calling to you the way it has called to every human being who ever lived, the way it calls to every creature with a brain complex enough to need this daily reset. Trust it. Surrender to it. Let yourself drift into that altered state where consciousness transforms, where your brain does its deepest work, where you become something different for a while before returning to yourself. You've done your waking work for today. Now it's time for your sleeping work, the work that only happens when you let go, when you close your eyes and allow your brain to follow its ancient rhythms. The mystery continues. The science advances. But tonight, none of that matters as much as simply allowing yourself to sleep, to give your mind and body what they need, what they're asking for, what evolution has made essential. Sweet dreams, wherever they take you. And sleep well, in that mysterious state we all need but don't fully understand. Good night.